All right, good afternoon, evening. Um, the eve of the final weekend of state tournament basketball season is over in about 48 hours. We have a special guest who just completed her season. Nice run. I will let Doug do the introduction.
Um, our guest is a 93 graduate of Jackson Memorial High School. She was a 4-year letter winner in soccer and basketball. And I didn't know, 3-year letter winner in tennis also.
Wow.
Um, yeah, 1,306-point score in basketball, 97 graduate of Monmouth University. Her senior year, she was number 1 in assists, number 4 in steals, and number 5 in 3-point field goal percentage in the Northeast Conference. Teammates with Christy Pierce Rampone, of women's soccer fame.
Hmm.
Um, she had a tryout with the New York Liberty in 1997, but decided to go be an assistant coach at Quinnipiac College instead in Connecticut. In 2000, she was called home to coach the Jags. She's been head coach for 22 years, 375 career wins, 9 A-South championships, 3 Group 4 sectional championships, 1 overall Group 4 state championship, and she's coached 11,000-point scorers.
Wow.
Rachel Goodale from Jackson Memorial High School. What's
Thanks,
up,
Scott.
Goody?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for
Yes.
having me.
Thank you for, obviously we want to start, congratulations, back-to-back sectionals. This day and age, it seems schools, especially in the public schools,
Hmm.
more and more difficult to win back-to-back. Luckily you and, Shore Regional just won back-to-back too. So congratulations on a good season that, kind of started up a little up and down,
Yeah.
with your star player being injured.
Hmm.
So, Doug, I'll let you could start off with some questions. I know you probably got a whole list of questions over there.
Yes. Good guy. So the my dog's insane. So every time I start this thing. So the first question I have before we get to the season. All right, enough.
Oh, that did it.
They're either coming up here and kissing me or they're barking their heads off.
Gotta get him right with you. He
So
wants a part of it.
before before season starts, you guys go through some pretty intense summer workouts with your team. Can you describe what you guys do to prepare for the season and your goal in
Mhm.
doing all that stuff you do preseason?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it started when I was an athlete. I was always into training and working out, and the conditioning aspect of it was, coming from a wrestling family with my brother and, that whole group. That was the number one thing I did in high school, other than just play basketball and tennis and soccer. Conditioning was a huge aspect, and not only for the way I performed, it was a mindset. So when I was at Quinnipiac, the reason I got that job, that Trish Sacca, I was blessed to get that job right away, right out of college. She wanted me. She knew that was when she watched me play, that was my strength. I bought into the conditioning in the fourth quarter while in college, the last 5 minutes, 10 minutes of the game. I was prepared because I was fit. So when I went on to coach college at Quinnipiac College and then Quinnipiac University, my second year, Division I, that was my main thing with that team, was to really get them in phenomenal shape. And Trish loved that. And they certainly bought into that. And then when Bernie Rotter made that call to me and Trethaway to come back home, I was like, okay, and not that the culture was bad at Jackson. They just didn't win a lot. They had their 7 wins and 8 wins, and sometimes they got their 10 wins. But my mindset was, first, I got to get that culture and have them buy into it being a basketball town. And that took a long time. It certainly did. And I could touch base on that in 2012. But the mindset was, I need to get them to buy into the conditioning aspect. And it's funny because I do it a lot in the summer, and a lot of coaches around, it's 90-degree days. My kids are in long sleeve tees. And I guess because I do it, they follow suit. And I do follow the hydration policy. I do. But those 98-degree days and we're training, and some coaches will be like, why do you do this if you don't start until, December? Like, what are they getting out of this? They're going to, once fall starts and you can't be with them, they're not going to do this anymore. Well, if you can get 6 out of 10 of them that buy in and understand the conditioning is a huge aspect late in March, I think that's a big reason we got there this year, and late in February. Or it's a mindset. Like, if you can mentally run a 90-minute workout on the track in 90 degrees or on the beach and jump into that cold water, you know, in March, that was the mindset. Like, these guys aren't doing it and we are, you know. So more than being a fitness aspect, I think it's more of a mindset that these kids are mentally tough and it's hard to do. But if I can get 6 or 7 out of 12 to buy into that, then, you know, they have bought into that culture. So yeah, it's hard. And as a selfish standpoint, I want to work out. So yeah, and my coaches and my alumni. I was with Dana Costello the other day, and we're already planning summer workouts. And she's at Jackson Liberty, and you know, I go to weddings, and Krista Evans, like, I'll never forget those workouts. They prepared me. So at the end of the day, I want to get a workout in, and my kids motivate me. So if we all can have that selfish attitude a little bit, it brings together that culture.
I think it's funny because, you know, kids, if they don't see a payoff at the end, they don't really buy in. But every time we see your team at the end of the season, you guys are always, you know, you guys are running up and down the court. You see a lot of teams with dead legs. And like you just said, it goes to that, you know, get them ready in the summer. So in March, you're ready to play when other teams are tiring out and getting tired of playing basketball. And you guys are mentally focused and ready to go.
Yeah, and I think it's the younger kids too, you know, when you can get like the 6th graders and 7th graders out there during summer camps and do those workouts, they know what to expect. So they're training prior to coming into high school because Coach Goody's got her 6 a.m.s and we got to be ready for this. So it's certainly not a punishment thing ever. I've never made that with my programs. It will, I promise them, it will benefit them in some way, whether it's your mindset or physical aspect of it.
You know, you brought up, you know, the 6th, 7th, 8th graders, and you also mentioned about, you know, turning Jackson into a basketball town. That brings to, you know, my main question that I was going to have for you. You know, you started your AAU program in Jackson. You've always had, you know, you've always tried to reach out to the grammar schools and whatnot. And, you know, we see Kevin and Brick, he kind of followed your suit, started his AAU program in Brick because that is not considered a basketball town. And he's hoping in a couple of years that pays dividends. When did, you know, when did you realize, hey, I got to get into the grade schools and the grammar schools in order for, you know, to have the success that you are currently, you know, over the last bunch of
Yeah,
years, 10
I mean,
years?
I remember it to the minute. I lost 3 kids one year, the first time I've lost kids and since my tenure at Jackson, and to parochial schools, and I was devastated. You know, I took it personal. My staff took it personal. The program there took it personal. And we, at that point, I think the staff I had at the time was like, listen, we can't let this happen again. We got to keep these guys home because they are going to benefit from this staff just as well as they will anywhere else. Yeah, maybe you're not on the biggest stage every night and you're not in all the college showcases, but with AAU now, like, that happens as well.
Yeah.
What they're going to get at Jackson, they can get anywhere, right? So that's our mindset. People might not buy into that and people might have their opinion. No way, it is what it is. But that was our staff's mindset. We have to keep these guys home. And I remember when we won the 2012 state championship team, it's a funny story. We won the overall and we're coming home from the Rotako Center at the time. We pull in, there's fire trucks and it was cool. Jackson's such a small community, big town, but like all the sports people, and Dougie knows, like, they all know each other and they're all in the parking lot. And Don Connor Boulevard, his son, who was an old AD back in the day, Don Connor is there with a sign. He might have a couple cocktails, but he's there with a sign. And he's just saying, listen, this is no longer a football town. It still is. And it's no longer a wrestling town. It still is. But he's like, this is a girls' basketball town. And that, when he said that, that inspired the whole community. Like, you know what? We got to do something right here. And I think Randy Holmes, I owe him credit. You know, I worked for Under Armour and Team Rio a year ago, and I was traveling and missing my family, missing events. And Randy's like, Goody, you know, your staff is known. You guys got great names here. Like, you got to do this in your backyard. And it took me 20 years to figure that out. So 2 years ago, I started up Team Swish, and, you know, and I'm hoping that these young guys, and it's not just Jackson, it's we got in Ocean County and Middlesex County, and, you know, people are buying into the staff and the development, and that's what it's about. You know, we care so much for that, the basketball aspect of it. But certainly with Little Ballers, you know, starting that, you know, and your niece was in that. She's a
she
beast,
loved it.
by the way. She's a beast, by the way. But, starting that was, you walk out of a practice and a game, and I never think there's ever a bad game or a bad practice. We just don't. You always feel good about yourself and walking out. But when you leave a 2 and a 7-year-old kid that are just smiling with their little dum-dum lollipops running out, and learn the game and have fun, that is just the passion that, inspires me every day, that I want to continue to do this, and starting the 6th, 7th, and 8th Swish group in town, and hopefully helping other towns and the girls basketball community will be a success.
You want to go, Doug? I got
Yeah.
one more.
Before we get to the season, I've known you for a long time. I know your brother, I know your family. You and Scott are probably two of the most hyper-competitive people I know. You guys feed off each other. Now that Scott's the head wrestling coach at Rutgers, you're doing a great job at Jackson. I know you guys are close. So how do you guys feed off each other during the season? How does he help you stay focused, and you help him stay focused? And how does that dynamic work?
He's just my brother. Him and I, growing up playing, we're 3 years apart. I was a freshman, he was a senior. And he was my, he took care of me. We had our moments, of course, brother and sister moments, and we have the same personality. It's crazy. We sit at the dinner table, and there's not a time we won't go back and forth on my team, his team. But he certainly motivates me every day. Like when we talk on the phone, he always says he makes 3 phone calls every day, and his 3 phone calls are to really important people in his life. And I like to say I'm one of those phone calls like 5 days a week. And we talk every day. And the motivation aspect is just be where your feet are. I always talk about going to the next level and playing at, coaching at the next level. And, I'm ready. And he's like, listen, be where your feet are, because you're making such an impact on what's going on around you. And him coming to high school events, he came to the Monroe game. I turned around, he's bawling in the bleachers, just crying. And he just, of course, he's at the biggest stage, and he misses it. And that makes me see, like, this is awesome. Like, this, what we're doing with these kids. And it's not just about championships, but the memories, And I think Scott does such a good job, what I get from him and his alumni. He's certainly so close to his alumni. And he always says it's bigger than the sport, and I always try to tell my kids it's bigger than basketball. That Cherokee game is going to break your heart at the moment, but at the end of the day, it's what you did Monday night and what you did in 4 years. So Scott and I really talk a lot about the mentorship and the impact, not just about the winning and losing, although we're probably 2 of the most competitive people you're going to meet. But I will tell you this story, and I'll make it public. Chloe Messer was having a tough go without Zoe, and she's never been in that position where she had to run a team. She's always had leaders around her on the basketball court, I'll say, on the basketball court. And my brother, he watched film at the Southern tournament, and he actually showed me film on Chloe Messer. I watch enough film. I'm like, Scott, I watch enough film. I don't need to see. He goes, no. It's not about basketball. You got to get her heart rate up. You got to get her to work harder. You got to get her to do this. And if you can get her heart rate up, because she's certainly competitive, you guys are going to win a lot of games. So that's the little things he sees, not basketball, because he doesn't know much about it. But, and when he did that, I'm telling you, when I told her that and put the Apple Watch on her in practice and got her heart rate up, the kid just changed tremendously. And I owe it to my brother to give me that advice. Sometimes you can't see everything, and your staff is in tune with what we're doing, X's and O's. And sometimes you don't. I love to hear the outside voice. So my brother does that for me. And I think I'm certainly not giving him credit for the season. So when he sees this, he's going to take that. But, we bounce off each other when it comes to our athletes and stuff like that.
It's funny. Well, I got just to follow up on that real quick. I talked to your mom more than I talked to you during the season. So I ran into your mom in the hall at Central the other day, and she told me that exact story. She goes, well, I'm not sure if you should say you know it, but she told me the story. And I started laughing, and I said, well, that sounds about right. But what Scott tells you comes from love. And yes. It's hard to hear sometimes from your brother or sister. I do it the same when they try to tell you the truth. And you're like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. But, to have that person there that you can rely on, that's been there in the high school level and the college level. And I think it's funny. Your mom shared the exact story the other day. And That's pretty
Yeah,
funny.
he certainly keeps me humble. And when I'll come home, be like, she played great tonight. He's like, whoa, 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 slow down. What's great? And then I register. I'm like, you know what? You're right. She's not there yet. So it's stuff like that. But yeah, my mom is amazing to this program as well. And I just want to thank you guys because, anytime you're in the gym, it's such a positive atmosphere. I walk out of a game, win or lose, like you're there talking to us and you always you're so great for the girls basketball community, super positive. And you guys should know that, but I just thank you guys for that. You're my mom's biggest fan for sure.
I can show you the
we
amount
know
of
that.
messages I get from your mom. It's
The
awesome.
scrapbooks like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. The funniest was when one of the early podcasts she had, I think I told you, Coach, that she asked, is there a print version so she could put the podcast in the scrapbook? I started laughing.
Unbelievable.
Just real quick before we do break down the season, you said you brought up, the impact you're making at the school. I see it a lot with coaches, but you especially, since I've came back to high school sports and covering high school sports, your relationship and your bond, you have such a special bond with your kids. Going back, when I came, with Christina Donzer, Bianca, and, Chloe and, Zoe, just talk, the bond that you develop with these players.
Yeah, I think it just starts at an early age. Like I said, I'm super not. I don't avoid families. I know coaches come out of the locker room and they're waiting for. I am in the mix with them. I have a really good relationship. I make sure I have a good relationship with my families. So they know me and they know my intensity is for good and my energy is for good, and it's not a breakdown mentality. But yeah, just I think at an early age with all my kids that have come in through Jackson, they know me early, whether the Evans sisters, I've had their sisters. So they know me early and I make sure I get them, on our page as a staff, with Coach Mason on staff and I like to keep alumni on staff. And so having that alumni base that have been through my program and not just for 4 years, but prior to that, when we invite them in the summers and do workouts on the track, that I think feeds off when kids come in, because she's been through it and she's been through it. So I just think the bond starts with their families and I guess I'm around 23 years. That's a pretty long time. So they get to know me fairly well.
Yeah, the coaches coming back wanted to coach with you. You brought Coach Mason, Sarah, I know she's at Georgia Court, but she was on your staff. So that, speaks volumes, the impact you had on those girls too, that they wanted to come back and, learn under you as well.
Yeah, I had Mason and Sarah, Tiffany Montaigne was on my staff for a little bit. Erin Sheena. It's great having them and just having basketball minds who have that winning mentality. But again, it didn't happen overnight, so they understand the grind. And we always like to say they're just Jaguar kids or, tough kids and blue collar kids. And, hopefully we have enough basketball knowledge that it could balance both.
Doug, you want to start with the season?
Yeah. So, Nick already mentioned that you were missing Zoe for the first probably 20% of the season. You have a lot of freshmen on your roster. And we talked about that before the season that, these kids are going to have to grow up quick because, you had Camille back and Chloe and Zoe, but these kids are going to have to step into starting roles and play major minutes. How did you get them ready? And how did the seniors help get them ready as well?
Listen, I'm not going to lie. In December, I was at a point, like, I don't even know if we're going to make the state tournament. It was rocky. It was just understanding, Zoe and Chloe and Camille were led their whole lives, and they said that, and I'll never forget, it was a December practice. It was actually January, right when Zoe just got back, and that you could hear a pin drop in the gym. It just wasn't our atmosphere. It was just, we came off a 1-2 Christmas tournament, just not a good feel and just not a good environment. The staff was struggling. And I remember, I don't do it often, but I walked out and I told them to stop and leave. And then I walked in and it was wow. Like, all right, we got to bounce back tomorrow. And they stayed in there and they talked to my assistants and they said, we don't know how to lead. And that was my seniors. They're like, we've never had, coach expects us to lead and lead by our voice and and that's all I needed to hear. As soon as I heard that, the whole energy and enthusiasm of the atmosphere of the practice shifted. And I had to understand that they didn't know how to. They weren't purposely not doing it. It was just hard for them. So, and again, like you go back to relationships, you know, the relationship I have with those three and the conversations after that moment, knowing they didn't know how to lead, you know, they figured it out. And it wasn't by voice, you know, Chloe leads by example, lead by example then.
Mhm.
Zoe leads by your, you know, getting really fit and doing the right things and being on time and being punctual and being a good leader that way. And Camille just leads by her energy. So once I found a way, our staff found a way for all three of them to get their strengths to this team, whether we were winning or losing after that point, we were super successful. Practices were really, really good. And the pace was awesome and the enthusiasm was awesome. So I felt good after that point. And then with the freshmen, there was a quick bond early. You know, Chloe had a tough time because she's leading 4 freshmen without her best guy, and Camille was just we were all lost. I was lost. It's tough, you know, and I don't think we've ever been through it and expected it. So once we got that and the gel, once I said we learned how to gel, we figure out how to gel, we're going to be okay in the postseason. And I believe it was the St. Rose. It wasn't until the short conference tournament. And our schedule was a grind, you know, and people are like, oh, I don't play. Well, we played a lot of people. We played really, really good teams, you know, Trinity, Ocean, Wall, Shore, Homedale. We put ourselves playing Cinnaminson 15-0 in a college showcase. So I put ourselves that schedule, not knowing we wouldn't have Zoe, but listen, those were the cards that were dealt, and we had to figure it out quick. And my freshmen are phenomenal. Like, I'm not talking basketball. They understood the role they were in, and they understood the opportunity they were going to get. Like, wow, I could play right away, and I can give good minutes. And Coach Goody and staff like believe in us. So they were showing up at 6 a.m. on their own in the mornings on game days to shoot with an assistant. So it was like I knew in their head they would be ready once our seniors gelled with them. So I believe that happened around the short conference tournament.
Say, you know, they didn't know how to lead. And I'm watching the game the other day against Cherokee, and it looked like the freshmen kind of hit a wall that game. Like they came out, they looked a little nervous, maybe the moment. And I saw Zoe go up to each one of them and pat them on the back, say, keep going. I heard her say, keep going, keep going. So that, you know, that's awesome.
She's such a great kid. All three of them are, and Camille with her post. Camille's got like my post players, like her and Amber were really close. So yeah, Zoe is. I mean, if she ever said that again, I'd be shocked because she knows how to lead, and she was certainly, you know, feeding Avery against East Brunswick. Avery Brooks doesn't hit those threes. We're not even in an opportunity to win a Central Jersey sectional. So she's feeding her. Very unselfish kid, and I didn't even know if she would get her 1,000 because she was super unselfish the whole year. You know, I'm like, go to work, do your thing. And she's like, nah, I got to get everyone around me better. So she figured it out. It was awesome to see. And yeah, the Cherokee game was tough to end for sure for the freshmen because that was a different team they've never seen. And I certainly see them all the time. So, but that was tough for them.
As a coach, you know, 4 freshmen that came in, you know, had to make an impact right away. How does, you know, bring your excitement level, know what's coming up the next couple of, hey, these kids got a lot of minutes as a freshman. I got 3 more seasons with them, and then plus what you have coming in through, you know, the middle schools.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is like not funny. We were taking the bus to Central, and I was emotional. I'm like, you know, it's hard. Like we have a nice squad coming back, but we're losing 90% of our scoring. So the whole mindset and what we need to do next year is going to be completely different style, you know. So that's my challenge, and I love that. That's why I still coach. So it's the challenge and the energy coming back, and the kids are awesome kids. I'm super excited. But hey, it's going to be different for sure. And it might take a year, but they certainly have been in big games. And with kids coming in, they're going to be nervous too, and they're going to be throw them in the fire as well, just like these guys did. So I think they'll be ready as a basketball standpoint, but as a mental standpoint, that's going to take some time, and that's our job, and that's where the summer workouts and the mind talks, you know, go. But it could take time, but let's hope it's sooner than later with this group coming in.
Yeah, you know, we talk a lot, and you say it's always, you know, the Jag mentality. And the one player I really enjoy watching on your team is Camille, who doesn't get any credit at all. And, you know, just the grinder. She's a grinder. And so can you talk a little bit about her and her development over 4 years? Because the development from last year to this year is like insane.
Right. Yeah, I was watching the Monroe game from last year. And up until the Monroe game, and I told my team that, not my team, I told my staff, but I said, I think we were better last year at this point, but let me look at film. And I'm watching film and I'm like, wow, like I think we're better this year than we were last year at that point because of Camille, because of Chloe. Zoe's played this way. Zoe's
Yeah.
solid. And our freshmen, two different teams, yes, but like Camille went a big jump up and Chloe went a big jump up. So Camille you don't get kids like that often, and she's funny because she's so smart. She'll probably go Ivy League and, super intelligent. And she decided not to play basketball, which she, at first 2 years, she wanted to play D3 maybe, and I've gotten some phone calls for her and she's like, I'm just going to enjoy the heck out of this high school season. And I'm going to go to the highest level academic I can go, but I'm going to play really, really hard for you. And that's how she's like that in practice. But she wanted to break the record for most foul outs. And I tried to tell her, Camille, I go, Camille, that's not a good thing. You know that. She's like, well, that's who I am. And that's who she is. She's right. She speaks in Lithuanian to the referees. She's yelling at them. She doesn't get teed up because it's Lithuanian.
They don't know what they're saying.
No, but the last possession of the Cherokee game, and she went for a loose ball and it was a foul. And instead of crying, she's like, got my record, got my foul out. This is the last time of her career. And I'm like, oh,
she got her money's worth on that foul too.
Yeah, she's just a tough, that's going to be a hard kid to replace. I'll tell you that. They all are, but she is someone who, where refs are in the way, when I'm on the sideline, they're in the way of me. And I don't even have to look. I know she's coming up with the rebound. I just see two hands and it's hard. Kids nowadays, they don't love it. They don't love the rebound aspect as much as they did back in the day when I had Justine Stevenson and Krista Evans. But this kid, man, that's her. She loves it. And just to rebound every ball with two hands is incredible.
Yeah.
We brought up, Chloe. I've got to watch a lot of Chloe, whether, soccer field or basketball court the last 4 years. Going to Monmouth for soccer, but this year to me, she showed that if she wanted to play basketball in college, she definitely could with this season. Just look at the big jump she made from last season to this season.
Yeah, it was so St. Francis, New York came to an open gym and obviously I couldn't be there. That's illegal. So they called me after and they offered Zoe and they were like, who is your point guard? And I'm like, I know. I'm like, they were like, she is just phenomenal. She is fun to watch. She plays both ends. And just this year, like the way she trained and worked out and, shooting wise, like basketball wise, Coach Mason did a good job with her with the guards and she jumped and she's a gamer. There were practices that she's kind of like Rachel Cappi in a way, like just wanted to play. And you knew that. And it used to bother me because I always loved practice or games, whatever. And then I figured her out later in the season, like mid-season, like, all right, she just wants to play. I know she's going to be great on game day because some practices she gets bored. That's just her mentality. Like everything needs to be competitive. So if you're breaking down a team and you're walking through Cherokee, it's like, I'm losing Chloe. I'm losing her. But, you can tell, I think the reason she plays so well and so hard is because it's her outlet from soccer and she absolutely loves it and knowing she won't play again, so I think this season that was in her mindset all the time. The kid played on an ankle, this like huge, and she played through it, St. Rose and on, and just tough as nails. And you never know it by talking to her, but watching her, obviously you'll know that.
She, going into the season, I kind of saw her, spot up shooter and the way she was able to create shots, get into the hoop or, pulling up for a jump shot and, obviously knocking down the threes. It was just so impressive, especially, like I said, a kid that I've been following since, her freshman year. It was just to see her growth and her basketball career like she did with a great season.
Yep. Yeah. It's funny because people are like, she's a soccer kid. And I don't take it personal, but I said, no, the kid's a basketball player. She's flat out can play the game. So,
I agree. I was like, she could do, if she wanted to switch to basketball today for college, she could do that.
In a minute. Yep.
So I have one more question before we send you off to your birthday dinner. Happy birthday, by the way. I know it's 2 days ago, but happy birthday. Growing up in Jackson, we know it's a special town. It gets a lot of flack. Everybody knows it for great adventure. You've had opportunities to move on. You mentioned that before when you talked to Scott. What is it about Jackson that kept you home?
It's everything. It's, I bleed red and black. I think my family has a big, saying in this, like every time I mention the next level, like they don't want to hear it. This is where you belong. And Scott made a point, like, be where your feet are, man. It's your program's successful. You're happy. You love going there every day. I love teaching. I love being in the classroom. So, the administration, a lot of them are Jags, and you're around family every day, and they support you. Rob Panicue and Kevin and Heather Novak, they've all been there. Tom Tarver, you know those guys. So it's just, when Bernie Ryder called me from Quinnipiac and said, do you want to come home? I didn't even hesitate. I'm like, I would love the opportunity to do that. And I worked under Rob Panicue for a year, and I thank him. He might not know this, but I thank him every day, because he stepped down for me. He's like, you know what? I'm going to let you take over this program and see what you can do with it. And I said, when I lose my energy or enthusiasm, I'll stop too. And I haven't, thank God. But, it's such a special place. People talk about, I hated high school, and I loved high school. I loved college. I loved high school. When I go drive in every day, I love it. I'm happy, and I bring my kids on the weekends. They're like, Mom, we love this place. And it's just the coaches, the camaraderie, the wrestling coaches. It's always been like that. And I hope it always will be. But even new guys that come in that aren't Jackson people, they have bought into that culture, coaches for other sports, and they support us, and it's cool. So, it definitely leaving the college ranks probably 10 years ago. I'm like, before we won the state championship, I said, did I make a mistake? Should I just stay there? Because it's hard to get back in. Certainly hard to get back in 20 years later. But and there's not any regret at this point in my career. And it's not because of the wins, it's because of the memories and the kids and the families.
Well, I know you well enough. I don't think you're ever going to lose your energy or passion for that sport or town. So
Yeah.
I think they've got you for life.
I did sit on the bench for 2 minutes yesterday, and it felt awkward. I'm like, I need to get up.
I noticed that.
Yeah.
I have one last.
Out of that one.
I have one last question. Doug brought up, your relationship with your brother, and just how your mother still supports you, even through your coaching. She's at every game. She's at supporting you. I'm sure she goes up to the wrestling events too. Yep. Just talk with me. Still, she's there every game.
Yeah. Well, when Scott got the job, she was hurt because my grandfather coached in Far Rockaway. He won like 10 city championships, baseball, football. He was like a Bobby Hurley senior in New York, and he was offered a ton of jobs, and he always was so about the high school level and molding those kids. And that's what he taught us. And like, be where your feet are, and make an impact on these teenage kids and get them ready for their life, and then there's new kids coming in. So my mom was a little bit bummed out at first when Scott got it. And then that was that challenge, because that full program was going to fold. And wow, they from 250 in the country to what, top 7, I think one of his years he was 7. So, and she's like that with us. She's so into the high school sports, before my mom battled breast cancer, but before that, she was going to wrestling matches. We were far gone, and football games, and just showing up with Irene Connor at random football games or wrestling matches. And she's just a high school sport advocate. And it's crazy. She was lucky Scott went to Rutgers to red and black. So now her wardrobe is all red and black. But yeah, I mean, she's a big, obviously, influence in our lives. And sports has always been with my father. I know my father coached you, I think, Dougie, in Pop Warner, Holbrook, Little League. Yeah. So he was big into sports, and I don't want to say that's all we know, but it's our lifestyle. And my mom is obviously a big influence to it, and she won't let me. It's crazy. She won't let me go anywhere. Anytime I talk about anything, I want to hear it. So.
It's usually the first, Doug probably too, the first message usually a week or so before basketball season starts. When's the first podcast, or when's the stuff going to start coming out for basketball previews? I love the
That's
passion,
great.
and
absolutely.
And it's great that she'll just go to random event games and stuff like that. So. Yeah. All right, Coach, we'll let you go to your birthday dinner. Thank you for taking time out, and congratulations on back-to-back Central Jersey Group 4 titles.
Thank you. Thank you guys for everything. You do a great job.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
All right. Me and Doug, we had to take a little time out there. We're
Yeah,
gonna
no,
just
it's
talk.
listen, we got to take a time out to catch our breath.
Yeah,
Goodies. I mean, she, like I said, I've known her a long time, and great family. Like her dad coached me in Little League. I played Little League with her brother Scott, but she got so much energy and so much passion for the
you
game,
could tell just
and
her
you,
talking.
yeah, and you
Yeah,
don't see that often. I mean, there's very, we know a couple of coaches that are very passionate, but to be passionate and to show outward love towards your kids, it doesn't. It's old school. It really is old school.
yeah. There's a handful that I could point out that you see that throughout the shore, the bonds that coaches have with their players, and she's one that every year you see it every year, no matter who's coming through the school. So, but thank you, Coach, for taking some time out tonight to talk to us. So, all right, me and Doug, we're going to talk a little bit about Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, 4 p.m. in Toms River, St. John Vianney versus Immaculate Heart. Which I'm curious, how many years in a row is that Immaculate Heart? Because I know it was back to back. They lost to St. Rose when I first came back to
Well, that's when St.
sports.
Rose was with NA, right?
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
Lucy Thomas,
Yep. Yep.
Abby's freshman year, so freshman and
Yeah.
sophomore year. Um, that and then the following year was St. John Vianney. Was that? No, was that? It ended before COVID. COVID.
Right.
There
COVID was
was
that.
there
Yeah.
was no group final, and then COVID the following year, only 15
Mhm.
game schedule.
Right.
Did they make it last year? Probably. I'm gonna guess Immaculate Heart last year.
Trying to pull that up as we speak. I mean, they had a great run back in the early 2000s, also,
So,
with a couple players that went on to play at major colleges. But they're always one of those teams like St. John Vianney, they're always there. It's not a shocker that they're there in the final.
yeah, Immaculate
Um,
Heart last year they played.
yeah, so um, it'll be a good game. We the last two games, Zoe Brooks came back, or
Well, the
the
last
last
game,
game she came
yeah,
back, right? She came back,
30,
and
33 points.
made a huge difference. I mean,
Yeah,
33 points, hits the game winner. Um, and, in a close contest, 63-61. Um, Zoe doesn't come back. Who knows?
yeah,
She's playing on a broken plantar fascia, which is painful. Um, it's all about tolerating the pain, and once that adrenaline kicks in, I don't think she feels anything.
yeah. Great player, great kid, and I had, we had a feeling she didn't want to miss that game. That game was going to decide number one in the state. Her and Hannah, the two best players in New Jersey, and they both showed it um yesterday or was it yesterday, 2 days ago. And she had that ball, and I think she knew she was hitting the game winner as soon as that ball got inbounded with I think it was 18.8 left when
18,
she got it.
18.9
And
left. Yeah.
yeah, and Dawn called very good play. Um and she got to the hoop like she does whenever she wants. And
Yeah.
I think I read in one of her post interviews that she knew it was going in as soon as it left her hands. And it seemed that way to me, the way she reacted as soon as it left her hand. And congratulations. And St. John Vianney continues. And another scare because they did get that RBC game.
Yeah.
And they
Yeah. RBC.
still have not lost to a New Jersey team since 2019.
Yeah,
And
it doesn't matter how close it is; they just keep winning.
and
That
they
RBC game, that was another incredible, just like the short conference final. And you and I talked on the last podcast. You know, playing without Zoe, we thought they'd have a little better handle on how they were going to attack
yeah,
RBC, and we didn't think it would be as close. And
it was
sure
closer.
enough, those RBC kids don't care. They don't care. Those freshmen are coming at you, and
Mhm.
um, they had a chance to win. Um, and I think the youth got a little bit ahead of them in that game towards the end, and St. John Vianney survived. We talk about that. March survived and advanced.
Mm-hmm.
They advanced. Zoe was healthy enough to play, and they're playing for another state championship.
Yes, and this group of seniors are gonna. It's gonna be their last game, and their remarkable run that they had, 100+ wins. Probably around 105 or 106 right now, I'm guessing.
Hold on one second. I'm coming. Go ahead. Keep talking.
I lost my train of thought now.
Dogs are driving me crazy.
Ashley, Bachman, Zoe, Bree Delaney, Hubbard, they're all going on to the next level. And, we'll be playing college ball next year. And could be, it's the end of that era, but see if they could just continue with the youngsters with Dinker and Madison, Charlotte, Ashley's sister Taylor. They got a couple, so they will look to continue. But
it's funny, we say that every year, like, oh, they're losing so much. How can it be the same next year? You lose the 2-time player of the year, and how are they going to be the same? They're not going to be the same. They're vulnerable, and it doesn't matter. Dawn restocks, and that team's just as good next year as they will be this year. So,
and they work hard. They deserve,
they
deserve all the success that they have. So, but depending on how, I do think Zoe will probably start. I don't see her playing a lot. I don't see her playing a lot either if the game's close or not. I don't know. I haven't talked to Dawn or Zoe. But I do think she will start because it will be her last high school game. And then Immaculate Heart beat St. Rose on a buzzer beater 3-pointer that hit the back of the rim, bounced up a foot and landed. And SJV rolled over St. Rose. So St. John Vianney.
Yeah, it's not too hard to make an extrapolation there. I think St. John Vianney wins. But that, like you said, that Immaculate Heart Academy, they're good. They're always there. They're there for a reason. They're not going to back down from St. John Vianney. So Vianney's going to have to come out and play their best to get this win.
Yes. And Sunday, 4 p.m. start. I think it's the middle game. Shore Regional will be playing University in another rematch of last year's Group 1 sectional, group finals, sorry. Last year, University, ran through Shore Regional. University is a top 20 team in the state. Very good team. They're pretty consistently in the top 20 year in and year out. Shore is improved from last year. Just, how much improved are they? They looked great. If they could play like they did in the first half against who they played, Woodstown yesterday.
Woodstown.
Tough defense.
And Middlesex, the way they played against Middlesex too.
Yeah.
But,
yeah. Shooting the ball at a very high percentage. All of them, not just Riley. Reese had a phenomenal game against Woodstown. Ava Coyle came in. Bunch of fast break points, couple steals, fast break points, and she's a very good shooter from outside. And Conley, she had 3 threes against Middlesex. I think she had a couple yesterday. They're gonna need that shooting to make it this a game because University is one of the best teams in the state.
Yeah, Shore's playing at such a high level right now. These last 2 games, they look like a different team.
Yes,
and just they're gelling. They're hitting their shots. They're rebounding. You just see it when you watch them these last 2 games. They have a different energy about them, and but playing University is a different animal. They're
athletic.
Comes at you. They come at you.
They're fast. They're athletic.
Yes. They're a tough team to play, and they're, like you said, they're always good, no matter what. They're ready to play. Shore is much more equipped Shore's much more equipped to handle them this year. With everybody, it's not just Riley like it
Yeah.
was last year. Everybody's playing much better, and I hope it's a good game. I think it will be a good game. I don't think Shore's going to be scared. Last year they played them. It might have been a little bit like, wow, this team is like
Yeah.
they're coming after us.
Yeah.
I don't think the fear factor will be there this year, but they're going to have to hit their shots like they've been the last two games. They're going to have to not turn the ball over in the
Yes.
backcourt, which is where University likes to turn you over to get the
Hmm.
easy layups. And they're going to have to withstand runs. University's going to make runs. They're going to score. They score in bunches. Um, if they can withstand those runs, keep it close, hit their shots, rebound, don't give them second chances. I think they've got a shot, and all that matters is that they believe they have a shot. And I'm sure Will is pumping them up. You guys have a shot. You do have a shot, and they're going to leave everything out on the court. That's just the way they play. So I'm looking for a good game.
Yeah, and Will, he always has great game plans. He does his homework for his
Mm-hmm.
team, and that always has pretty good game plans going in. And another big factor too is last year Riley was ill.
Right.
She was not feeling well that game. Honestly, not would have maybe made it 10 points closer if she.
Right.
But it's a totally different short team. Her teammates are confident. It's not like, oh, Riley's not feeling herself. What do we do? It's
Right.
Reese is ready to step up. Connolly could step up. I mean, look at the Point Beach game. Antoinette Russo might have been the first time she scored double digits.
Yeah.
She had a career high 17 points, and that they needed that in that game from her. So I think it'll be an exciting weekend. Hopefully for us, we would like to see two short conference teams raising a trophy.
Yes.
And yeah, that's it. That's all I got on that.
Yeah. Just, you mentioned Antoinette Russo. That's another kid playing with confidence now. So, Will's got, he plays six. And those six kids are very confident right now after
Yeah.
two big wins. So yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. I think uh, they might shock University a little bit with the way they've matured over the last year. Uh, so let's see. It'd be great to have two short teams win championships. Um, I'm excited for them.
Yeah. So yeah, and congratulations, to the three sectional Jackson, Shore, and St. John Vianney, the last three short teams standing, and now we're down to two short teams standing. So and wrapping up, great season.
Yes, absolutely. It didn't feel long because it was shortened by the NJSIAA, but it's been a good season. And my dog would
Yeah.
like to apologize for
Yeah.
her poor attitude today.
Yeah. So next week we will have all our postseason, the rest of our postseason awards. We are looking to get, we hope to get Will on, Dawn on for, we want to interview each of the sectional winners. And then Doug and I have some, we'll get some more try to get a player on. And losing my train of thought. Sorry, text message. And we got some other things planned um, where we could get some fan questions in and stuff like that too in the next few weeks. So, but anything else you want to finish with?
No, that's it. Thanks again for Coach Goodale for coming on, and I'm looking forward to a good weekend. Last six games of the girls basketball season, and it always stinks when the season ends because
Yeah.
you get so into it, and we had a great time, especially this year working with Shore Sports Network. So, hopefully in the fall I'll be a little more available for soccer, and we'll just keep it going. We'll keep going with the interviews, and like Nick said, we'll do some with fan questions. Those are always interesting.
Yes.
Sometimes scary, but always interesting.
Yes.
And but yeah, it's been a great, and we appreciate everybody's support. We go out to the gyms and people say, "Hey, we like what you guys are doing. We like the podcast. We like the articles, and we really appreciate that because we put the time in, and but we put the time in because we love it. We're
Yeah.
passionate about it. We want to grow the exposure of girls basketball on the shore. So far so good, and it's been another great year.
Yes. And thank you, Causeway family for allowing us to be on the Shore Sports Network platform to give these girls even more exposure. So, thank you for that. And 48 hours, so it'll all be over.
That's it.
So, all right, guys, have a good weekend. If say hello if you're at the arena this weekend, me and Doug will be there both days. I'll probably be there all day, both days. I don't know what Doug's plans are. Um, depends. I guess actually depends how my mom's feeling if I'm there all day tomorrow. But
Yeah.
I
We'll
wanted to
be
say
there.
thank you to everybody who reached out the last couple of days asking how my mother's been feeling. So I appreciate that. So, all right. We will see you guys this weekend. Good luck, St. John Vianney and Shore.
Good luck.